Well, hello everyone. I'm B from Our Dream, Our Purpose again. Gonna do a little melting today. I tried doing a little bit of foam casting, putting a foam object into sand, casting it, pouring, it melts the foam away and fills the void with aluminum is what I've been trying with. I'm sure you can do it with other things. I've only done aluminum as of right now. I'm gonna do the same. It's mid to late September. October's coming along, Halloween's coming along. I actually found this. It's a styrofoam skull. I'll try to get you some better views of it. And I'm going to try to pour this. Now there's a felt type system. There's a felt type outer coating. I'm going to leave that on for two reasons. One, I'm pretty sure it will melt. Wherever I do go and put it in, I will put a slight hole in it wherever I have it coming out, so the aluminum gets straight to the foam and melts it. But I think it'll give a better cast with a smoother surface on it as well. Again, we're just trying it. I don't know, I haven't done a lot, but it's a trial. Learn from it. So we're gonna do this now. I'm gonna use this crucible, which is the largest one I have. It's gonna be close to having enough. So I'm gonna melt this really full, fuller than I've ever done, just to make sure I have enough to go in here. I'm gonna use this bucket, and I've got, these are just some pieces of wood. The reason I like them is they're different sizes to help when I pack the sand down, because I'm gonna try to get a good push into the sand so I get a good structure on the face, but I really want to tuck the sand around, and this helps me do that. Pack it in tight. And this is just a little bucket. It seems to be plenty of room to fit in there, not to get too warm, so we'll use this. From an aluminum standpoint, if you've seen any of my videos in the past, a few times I've actually had some of this is wire. I actually had my overhead wire taken out and put underground, and they left some of this behind for me so I could try to melt. So I've got some of this that I've cut to pieces. I'll actually take the rubber coating off. I'll do the same with this. This is really hard to get off, so I only did a couple pieces of that. We'll see how that goes. And then I'll also have some just bare aluminum wire. I'll cut that to pieces, we'll melt that as well. Want to make sure we get enough melt. If I have to, I can get more, but this will be full to make sure we get a good pour on this. This here, you'll see as I go down through, it's just a piece of conduit, but I've sharpened the end so I can actually push down through the sand. And actually when I pull it out, it'll pull the sand out, and this makes the hole to where I can actually pour. So, and I've got some Petrobond sand over on the side, that's what we'll use. So I will clean this table off, and we will start with getting sand in here, getting the skull in there, sand packed around it, and starting the process. All right, give me just a minute, we'll clean the table off, and we'll start doing the sand cast. All right, be right back. So got this cleaned up. So I've got a couple different, so this is both Petrobond sand. This is more of stuff that I have sifted, so it's finer. These are chunks that I haven't sifted, but I can break it down. It breaks pretty easy. We'll pack some of that in first, then we'll use this more for around the skull. But you'll see me going back and forth. Whenever I'm filling bigger voids, I'll use this over here, so we'll go from there. But essentially what I'm gonna do is just put the skull in. I'm gonna try to go face down, so I'm gonna put a layer of sand down there. Then I'm gonna pack it a little bit, then I'm gonna put some of this softer stuff and really try to push this into it to fill all the voids and to go from there. So let's get started. I know you really can't see what I'm doing too good. Let me bring you in a little bit closer. we're done with the sand mold. A couple things to point out as I was doing that. You see me pushing down pressure on the outside. It's to push the sand closer towards the object itself to get a better mold. I pushed, ideally I would have had all the details to where I could push the sand into it. I'm trying to push the skull into the sand. I'm not sure how detailed how that's going to turn out because I wasn't able to pack into it, but I did have a lot of soft, I did do a lot of pressure, so I think it'll work out. Let's see. What you also see is me mounted it up. The skull, even though I took it out and redid it, it's still closer to the top, so I wanted to mount it up to make sure I get enough structure up there. I think we'll be good. When it starts more melting in there, I don't want everything to collapse. I wanted enough structure, so I think it was good. And you see me pushing down around the top and making the hole a little bigger. It's so it's easier to pour. When you start pouring the styrofoam, what I've learned is it melts it and creates flames and smoke, so it's tough to see. So if I have a bigger hole, it'll be easier for me to actually pour into. So we got that done. Now let's strip the aluminum, cut it into pieces, and then we'll get ready to pour. All right, let's go to the bench.
Black coating peels off nice. This yellow actually is stuck to the aluminum. It's like poured around the aluminum wire, so I have to literally peel each little section off. Did one of them, and that was it. I was not a big fan of this.
All right, back over here. You saw me tear a lot of this apart. I didn't show you all of it, just to give you an idea of how I do and what I'm doing. These smaller pieces, I was able just to put a straight cut down it, peel it off. I know how these are. There was one yellow piece, a long piece. It's poured right into this, so it's like this is made and then dipped in it. Where this, the black one actually was like heated around it, so it comes off a lot easier. The yellow one, it's a lot of effort. I only did one of those. And then the small ones, it literally was just cutting these from the long strand. I actually, from what I showed you originally, I actually cut extra of these. I anticipated about 6 pounds of aluminum to pour. And I could be completely wrong, but I want to make sure I overestimate. I've got about 7 pounds here, so we will just keep feeding it in until the crucible gets full. Make sure we got it clean, pull it out, and we'll do our pour. So gonna open up the door, we're gonna do it outside, so we'll switch over to that and go from there. I've already got the forge out there, so won't have to set that up, but just have to get the tools and get everything going. All right, let's get to it and see how this turns out.
I tried to prep all the aluminum ahead of time, and I'm just putting it in the crucible now, and then we'll start melting. So anytime you see me do this, I try to start the furnace first, get it going, so while it's warming up and starting to melt, then I start prepping my area. I'm just trying to be as efficient as I can in doing this. Feeding in the pieces into the top seemed to be a great way to keep the furnace going, keep it warm, and then just drop them in the top. See me mixing this up. This is where I was starting to notice that some of the wires was not melting. I'll actually explain the problem I ran into with this at the end of this video, so watch till the end. I had this crucible very full. I wanted to make sure I had as much in it as I could, so when I poured it, I was concerned I wouldn't have enough for the skull. So when you see it come out, it is filled almost to the top. I do not recommend this. So not only was I trying to make sure I had enough, but then when I started pouring, it wasn't going in the pour hole quick enough, so it was pouring over the edges, which I was losing aluminum. And then on top of that, some of it didn't melt all the way, so I have to put it back in, so full panic mode here. So cleaning this up went a lot smoother than I expected. I'm not trying to get this polished finish, just really trying to get the burn off of it, some of the sand off of it, things like that. But I think it cleaned up real well. Used a wire brush, as you can see, to start, and then a wire brush on a drill, and was able to get into a lot of the crevices. Yeah, I wasn't completely satisfied with the first skull, so I thought I would do a second. So I just had another one, made a sand mold of it, and getting ready to pour it. Found some struggles with it as well.
Alright, I'm B. I'm back. If you're seeing this video, this part of the video, it's because we were finally successful. I had some struggles with the first couple actually. You guys seen us trying to pour a styrofoam cast of skull. The first two came out so-so. But I had some problems with it, and I believe I know what it was, so there's a couple things I'm going to do different on this third one. I'll show you what I'm doing, and at the end I'll actually go step by step through what our issues were through the whole process. But let me bring you a little closer first and show you what we'll be doing. Alright, so what you're seeing here is what I did before is I put the styrofoam in it, packed the sand as always, and then put a hole in it to where you could actually pour right into it. It would actually melt the styrofoam and fill the void. The problem, what I think is when it's trying to melt the styrofoam, all that styrofoam gas and flames and everything's coming out. It's coming out the same area I'm trying to pour it in. So what I did here was actually created a second hole. So I'll pour it in here, but it'll allow the gas and everything to come out of this one. So one thing I'm doing. Second thing I'm doing is as the aluminum gets closer, I'm actually going to use a propane torch, and I'm going to put it down in there, in both of them, and actually melt the styrofoam somewhat already, so it doesn't have that hits the styrofoam, has to worry about melting down through it. Let me give it a head start is what I'm going to try. So it's kind of what we've done different here. So I showed you the couple things we're going to do here to try to help with this pour. I currently have the furnace warming up. You've seen me melt before. All I'm trying to do is just get a full pot. So we'll jump right from where we're at now to, I'll actually open the door up, set this down in place, and we'll go to pour, okay? As I mentioned, I'm going to melt the styrofoam inside. Alright, didn't get as much as we wanted. We'll see how that goes. I'll turn this on just for a little bit more, warm it up, and we'll pour it. All right, everybody, this is the final stage of this process. You guys have seen a little bit here, a little bit there. I showed you cleaning the actual material up itself. And then I did the melt, and then I showed you how I was sandcasting, and I did the pour. You didn't see everything. I definitely showed you the whole first part, or most of the first pour. There was a second, and there was a third pour. If I showed you those, I'll explain now why I did each of those. Starting off, one of the things I ran into was my wire choice, my aluminum choice. When I was melting, I have this thick wire here. You've seen me peel this before. This yellow wire here, it's solid aluminum. Cut it down. I actually have to peel it off because this is kind of melted to the wire itself, so it's in the wire. So this is tough, but it worked okay. Then I had this wire. I've got two pieces just to kind of show you something. But I had this thick black wire here. Basically, it was just like this, solid aluminum on the inside. I was able to slice it down and peel it apart. So it came off fairly easy. Not a problem, positive there. Then I had this. This was already peeled. So all I had to do was cut it. And that's what I did. Cut it, then I dropped it in, and I was melting it. As I was melting all three of these types at the same time, I did experience a problem. Let me grab something to show you. This is a small little magnet. So when I was doing each of these, I'd put them in there. Most of it was melting, but I had some strands in there that weren't melting. I didn't understand why. I had it hot enough, everything was going good. At the very end, I literally pulled out a bunch of strands, solid strands. They had some aluminum on it, and I panicked and actually put some more aluminum in it so I could get this filled. But the first pour, really, that started the impact there. And this is what I found out afterwards. When you tear the thin one, these were fine. The thin one apart, any electric lines, aluminum electric lines, because these were so small and it didn't have an outer coating, what they do is actually add to the inside of it a metal piece, one solid metal, one single metal piece to make it sturdy. Okay, let's see if I get this apart. Again, all of those, no issues. Here's a magnet, no problem. This, metal, didn't know that. So everything, every little piece I was putting in there, I was running into metal, which wasn't melting, which was causing me a problem, and that's what I had. So unfortunately, I was not aware of that. When I touched the outside of where I can't show you now, it didn't magnetize. I double checked those things. It didn't magnetize, but I didn't check the end. This was covered by the aluminum and just didn't see it. By itself sees it, no problem. But I should have taken one apart. I should have checked all of them. I did not know. I thought they were all solid aluminum. So an issue I had, an error I found. So if you're going to melt any of this, make sure you double check it. You should have that. It wasn't the end of the world. I could pull those out, but when I was doing it, I didn't know what it was and I was struggling with it. So I poured those out. I put some other aluminum I had in there to get to the top part where I wanted to. Okay, then you guys see me sandcast, and I went in to do this pour. When I did this pour, this was down in it like this. When I did this pour, I was pouring it down in there. It wasn't going in the hole quick enough and it was overflowing. I used a bucket, plastic bucket. I shouldn't have, but I did. When this was overflowing, then it hit the sides of the plastic bucket, started melting it. I should have learned from that. And I didn't have enough aluminum to pour it. Not because I didn't have enough aluminum, I thought, it's because it was the overpour. So, decent first one. It looks a little janky, but I'm like, okay, I got a problem. Let me do something different. I'm gonna learn from it. So I sandcast it again. I figured out what the problem with the aluminum was. I melted me a new batch. Not a problem. I set this up. It was good. Poured it. Again, had some overflow. And what you see here was around the styrofoam, was like a nylon. So I thought, so the nylon was bunching up here and just pushing into the sand, and it was causing these grooves. Now I can clean those off. I cleaned this partially, not all the way, because it is very rough. And I'll debate whether I actually clean that up and save it or if I remelt it. So I was still trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing differently? What can I do? What am I doing wrong? What can I do differently? Here's the final one. And what I did with this one is when I did the sand cast, I did it in a wooden box to save any problems whatsoever. I actually did my pour hole. I actually did a second one as well to where it actually vents out. I poured in one, but it allowed it to vent out. And I also tried to heat the styrofoam inside. My torch was not allowing me to, so I ended up poking holes in it just so it would melt easier. It actually melted. I think it did a really nice job, gave me a nice form. I only had two problems with this. The back itself, one, full as this was, did not have enough aluminum to fill this entire sand cast. Two, when I actually was scooping the sand out, I was doing it a little bit early and I messed up some of this. I scooped through some of this here, but not a lot, but enough. I wouldn't have had a full pour anyways. It wouldn't have been perfect anyways, but I was impressed with everything else. All the styrofoam, everything cleaned up nicely. And I just used a wire brush and I had a couple little lines I used a little grinder for, but not a lot of cleanup. So this was the final one. So it took a few tries, but what I like to do on this channel is I'm always asking for advice. I'm also not afraid to point out where I made mistakes from, but I learned from those. I learned from each of these issues that I had. So I did not learn until the final one. This one could not hold enough. That's okay. I learned that, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. So again, any suggestions, ideas, thoughts? How can I tell how much I'm gonna need? Things like that. Let me know. I enjoy showing you guys things, telling you what I learn, what I don't learn. I love comments, so please give me some comments back and help me grow, help me learn, and keep the channel going. So again, our dream, our purpose. Like, subscribe, hit the notifications, share it with other people if you like the videos. Trying to grow the channel. Right now we've got about 50 or so videos out there. Go back and look at some of them and make comments. Let us know what you like. I'll keep doing what you like and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks again. Catch you later.